And we begin in Munich, Germany, where the world's biggest security conference is now underway. Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz kicked off the proceedings about an hour ago with a plea to rebuild ties between Europe and the United States. Transatlantic relations are at a low point, with the Trump administration's policies damaging decades of trust. Let's hear more now from what the German Chancellor said. Take a listen.
For 3 generations, trust amongst allies, partners and friends has made NATO the strongest alliance of all times. Europe knows deeply how precious this is. In the era of great power rivalry, even the United States will not be powerful enough to go it alone. Dear friends, being a part of NATO is not only Europe's competitive advantage, it's also the United States' competitive advantage. So let's repair and revive transatlantic trust together. We, the Europeans, we are doing our part.
Europeans doing their part. I'm joined here in the studio now by our political correspondent, Matthew Moore. Matthew was here with me. We were listening to that speech. Most of the speech was in German, but that part was in English, Matthew, because it was directed at
Donald Trump, the President of the United States. And this was quite a blunt message, I thought. This was a message saying, you cannot go it alone. You have to be part of NATO. But there was a broader message within this speech, and that was the world order as we know it, the post-war rules-based world order, is no longer. The United States has potentially squandered its claim to leadership in that world.
I mean, he was laying blame really squarely at the doorstep of the United States and the current president, wasn't he?
He was. He said he remarked that on J.D. Vance's speech last year and rejected some of the things that J.D. Vance had said, this idea of a culture war, that freedom was under threat here in Europe, free speech specifically. He rejected protectionism and tariffs the Trump administration have been using. That got a round of applause. But the message really was, we can be part of NATO, as in Germany, Europe. We're willing to do our part. We're willing to spend to build the biggest conventional army in Europe. Something that he admitted was something that's quite uneasy for people to listen to, the idea of Germany rearming itself. But he said it was necessary. He did say it's necessary if we do it within the foundation of the European Union. We can't go it alone. He conceded that. Germany's history will not allow for that. He talked about 4 points where Germany really has a programme, as he called it, a programme for freedom. What was number 1? Military, spending big on the military. Rearming, taking care of defence. To put that into to kind of graspable numbers for you, Brent, German army budget in 2021 was 46 billion euros. This year it's 83 billion euros. And that's with another 25 billion euros extra just to buy some new equipment.
And that's what Donald Trump has been wanting to see, right? The European countries spending more. But he also said that even within the charters that created the European Union, there is an article that is similar, if not almost a carbon copy of Article 5 in the NATO treaty, which says, an attack on one is an attack on all of us. I mean, were you surprised that he pulled that out? I mean, that was, I guess, reinforcing the notion that we're all in this together.
Yeah, he pulled that out because he wanted to make the point, we've had this commitment to each other, but we haven't lived up to that commitment. That was one of the things. There were some blunt words for the US administration, but there were also some home truths. We haven't lived up. We've talked the talk, but we haven't backed it up with serious military and economic power. So that was part 1 of his programme, was about reinvesting in military and in defence industry in Europe, but also on strengthening European Union, getting rid of red tape, bureaucracy, putting a focus on trade deals with other countries. And then he talked about part 3 was about the United States and saying, look, and this was where he actually got an applause, was when he talked about that rejection of the MAGA culture wars that the United States is engaged in. And he rejected protectionism. That got a round of applause in the room. And then part 4, really interesting, where else can we look to build partnerships around the world? He said that was a very important part of European revival and renewal.
Yeah, multilateralism. We know that Donald Trump has 3 more years in the White House, and then his time will be over. So did you find an end game in this speech at all? I mean, where is all of this supposed to lead Europe? Is the goal to be 100% militarily independent from the United States? I mean, no one thinks that that's even possible, right?
It's not possible. I mean, if you just look at the nuclear deterrence question here in Europe, Germany cannot have a nuclear weapon, Brent. It signed up 2 treaties that prohibit that. But he talked about the nuclear deterrence, and that's been a debate that's been going on here in Europe for a number of years now. He'd said that we've begun discussions, Friedrich Merz, I've begun discussions with Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, about this nuclear deterrence. What role could Germany play in that? There are lots of discussions about whether Germany's Taurus missiles could be used in a potential nuclear deterrent there in the programme. So there's a lot of discussions going on that, as you say, big picture, Europe can't go it alone. He says that we need each other. NATO is the strongest and most important alliance that we've ever built, and that we need to continue to
There was a focus, obviously, on the threat coming from Russia. I mean, I was struck that there was not more focus on just the emergence of China as a possible superpower. He did say that it could soon, be as militarily strong as the United States, but there wasn't really any talk there about Europe and the United States need to join forces if we want to be a counterweight to the Chinese giant. He didn't say anything like that.
Interesting, wasn't it, that he didn't do that? I think the reason for that is that this was a speech really trying to address the elephant in the room, wasn't it? He talked about it. The era of post-war rules-based order is over. We're now in this era of great power politics. What's our role as Germany, as Europeans? And so I think that for that reason, it was very much about what we can do as Europeans rather than saying, OK, what is China doing and how can we compete with China?
As he said, Europe is still coming out of this long vacation from responsibility that he mentioned at the start of his speech. Matthew, good to have you in the studio. Thank you.